开学第一天，妈妈送你来学校，一会儿就要你自己来喽。
可是我们为什么要上学呢？
曾经的我也有过同样的疑问。最初，我们在游戏中认识这个世界，带着一颗好奇的心，感知形状、颜色、材料、结构，在信任的目光中，勇敢探索未知的一切。我们逐渐领悟，知识需要自己去发现。课堂上的自由讨论，练习中跳动的音符，都是知识的隐喻。当我们打破四面墙，天地便是我们最广阔的课堂。当学习融入生活，成为一种习惯，它将伴随我们的一生。在老师们的陪伴下，我们取得一个又一个的学习里程碑。但优异的分数真的是学校教育的全部吗？那些课堂之外一同面对的挑战，一起筹备的夏日音乐会，还有赛场上那关键的一分，这些微小而珍贵的时刻，才是分数之外学校赋予我们的更长远的价值。在这个瞬息万变的时代，没有任何知识能保证一个人永远处于潮头，唯有自主学习和终身学习的能力，才能让我们在面对未来风雨时自信而笃定。我们来学校就是为了像你一样，提问题，自己找出它的答案。
Good evening, everybody. 欢迎大家来。Thank you for joining us for this session to really have a chance to learn about what is going on right now with the United States. We are very thankful to have two amazing guests join us today, David and Jing. And I'll let David and Jing introduce themselves. Jing, can I ask you to introduce yourself first, please?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Jing Luo. I'm working at Michigan State University Office of Admissions. Often I'm based in China, and I'm responsible for mainland China and Mongolia recruitment. I believe that I've seen some of you maybe on-site or online other sessions. I really hope that this session will be very helpful for you to have some takeaways and still believing that U.S. education is still welcoming you.
Thank you so much, Jing. David, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is David Wivell. I'm calling in from Rochester, New York, and it's a little early in the morning here, but I'm glad to have your evening to talk about these important issues. Of course, we'd love to talk about our schools and love to answer questions about general admission things, but this is an interesting year. So as we are addressing issues and challenges with visas and other parts of the application, other parts of the enrollment process right now. We'd also like to share some of that information with you and see how we can face these different challenges.
Absolutely.
All right, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Absolutely. Thank you so much. And audience 家长和学生们, this is a bilingual webinar, so you'll see there will be translations for you, and also Jing and David are actually better at Chinese than me, so they'll be answering and sharing their responses bilingually. Also, we will remind you that we wanted to make this session interactive for you. Thank you for all those who registered and are able to join us this evening. If you have any questions on whether you're joining us from PolyV or WeChat, you can put your questions also in the chat. for us to be able to kind of gather your responses and also ask Jing and David. Thank you all for who registered, who already put your questions forward. So we're going to start with those questions that were submitted already. But then, as throughout the session, there may be some follow-up questions that you may want to ask. And please feel free to ask your questions. We are here today to support you and your thoughts about how you want to help your child think about whether it be they're going to university this year to the U.S. and have questions or planning in the future. But let me start by just giving an opportunity for our speakers to have a chance to introduce their amazing institutions. So David, can I ask you to just introduce your institution, please, to our community?
Sure. So RIT, Rochester Institute of Technology, is a STEM-focused university. We're a large comprehensive university, 所以我们是一个综合性大学。在美国算一个比较大的私立综合性大学。So we tend to have very large programs in engineering and computing because we are so STEM focused. STEM is of course 科学、科技、工程and 数学类似的studies. So, but we also have terrific programs in art and design, business. Some of our actually top ranked programs are in art and design, game design. We're a suburban school outside of the city of Rochester, New York. We're not in New York City. We're actually about a 6-hour drive from there, a 1-hour flight. But we have a very safe, friendly campus that's outside of the city. So some of the things you might want to look at when you're thinking about universities in the US are what things can the university not change, right? We can't change our size. Are you looking for a big school? Are you looking for a small school? Our location, our weather, we're in the northeast of the United States, so we do have winter. So我们的气候其实跟长春或者跟北京也有一点像，但是没有北京那么干燥。And so, we hope that you'll think about our school. I did put the websites there. There's a lot of great information and videos, video tours. We also have a Chinese website for parents. 我们还有一个中文网站，所以要是看中文或者也不用翻墙，所以看中文方便的话，也可以用我们的中文网站搜一下所以我们有100多个专业。然后也是一个比较欢迎国际学生的校园，所以我们希望人家还会考虑在美国上学。All right. And Jing?
Yeah, sure. So Michigan State University, we have a short name MSU. We are a very comprehensive research-oriented university. 所以 MSU 其实也是一个综合型的，有非常多研究项目的大学。我们一共有400多个专业，基本上大家能想到的专业都有，不管是文科、商科、工科，甚至医科、药科，还有音乐学院、艺术设计专业等等。那每年最突出的，或者说最受中国区学生欢迎的专业，基本上集中在商科，特别是供应链管理、会计这些非常好找工作的专业，以及传媒。传媒这几年也是一个非常向上发展的这个出口率非常高的，因为我们现在在一个新媒体迭代的一个时代。接下来的话就是自然科学，也就是大家所说的物理、化学、生物这些以研究性为主的，跟着导师天天做实验、出成果、发 paper， 然后最后要去攻读硕博项目的。再次的话，还有一些动手专业的项目也非常受欢迎比如说这个包装学呀，体育管理呀，运动机能学呀，还有教育出来做老师或者是做升学的老师，比如说像 John 这样子也是非常非常这几年在整个圈子里比较受瞩目的。所以整体的专业来说呢，它的这个匹配度很高，有很多样的选择。那生活方面的话呢，因为我们也是一个一年四季非常丰富的学校的这个，因为纬度的关系我们也是有冬天的，而且也是会下雪的，甚至可以成为大家的滑雪胜地。如果大家喜欢冬天的话， 那我们最近的机场的话，就是底特律或者是加哥机场，所以这个也是大部分学生来的时候会到达的这个机场。
And it's nice that we also have a private and a public school here today. So there are some of the not only the differences, but the way that we're going to respond to some of these challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. And before we get to the, kind of questions about the visa policies, we actually had some questions from a lot of our parents about still how to get their children ready to apply to your institutions. And I know both of your universities are fantastic in STEM and STEM majors. And, a lot of our families and students wanted to know, so for themselves, whether through our YCYW curriculums, whether it's through our IB, through YCIS, or A levels through 𝐝𝐤𝐬𝐬𝐜𝐻, what are the ways in which maybe our students, whether it be curricular or extracurricular, get themselves ready to apply to your institutions? We're so good in those subjects. And then, there's things, whether it be inside the classroom, outside the classroom, for them to be prepared and, for the types of learning in your institutions. And Jing, if I can ask you to answer that question first, if that's okay.
Sure. 那我接下来这部分先主要以中文讲啊，因为可能今天有很多的家长。那 STEM 专业这些年确实是非常火爆的，给大家分享一个很小的一个故事吧，或者是数据就在去年MSU 盖了一个新的一个工程学院的楼，就是因为原来的学院的整体的楼或者是老师都已经装不下现在的学生，因为报考率越来越高，所以我们现在相当于是有一个扩招的一个形式，甚至开了新的关于 STEM 的专业。所以 STEM 整体来说，在美国的现在的这个需求率还是非常高的，也是比较好找工作的，有非常多的学生利用 STEM OPT 可以衔接上他们现在的这个学生签证，然后留在美国工作周围有非常多的公司每年都在招聘。那从这个申请的角度来说呢，其实不管什么专业，美国大学非常想看到的是你为什么想学这个专业，以及它的动机来源和热情。你在高中部分，你的不管是学校里头的课业，还是学校外头的课外辅导，你获得了什么样的在 STEM 专业的一些补充供给，然后这些东西你学了之后，为什么让你有持久的这样的一个毅力继续的深究下去？可能是一件事情，可能是你的高中的老师或者是课外的一个活动的老师给了你非常多的灵感，给了你很多的鼓舞，或者你做到了一个什么样的一个 app， 然后帮助到了整个社区的人这样的这些故事我们平常会在很多的文书中看到。那我们非常希望就是看到学生有这样的一个热情跟持久的潜力，将来到了学校之后能够继续的钻研他所兴趣的专业，然后并且能够在这专业中最后能够出成果。所以总体来说，我们希望能够从整个的申请的包裹里能够看到一些蛛丝马迹，能够体现这个学生在这方面的总体的能力和潜力。
Thank you so much, Jing. And David, how about for yourself? 那 RIT 呢
？IT，反正我们是特别欢迎热烈欢迎中国的学生而且比较喜欢 YCIS 和𝐝𝐤𝐬𝐬𝐻。我得承认，我自己女孩两个女孩在 YCIS 北京上过学这是因为我跟我太太，我们是非常我们特别喜欢中国的，特别是小学和中学的教育方法。我们而且我觉得很多美国学校是希望有数学比较好，愿意吃苦的，愿意努力学习的学生。然后我们觉得在YCIS 和𝐝𝐤𝐬𝐬𝐻的准备还是非常好而且特别是 STEM 特别是准备上工程或者电脑或者电子游戏设计这些类似的，必须是最重要就是数学和科学。所以要是学生愿意吃苦，愿意努力学习，我们还是比较喜欢让他们过来在 在美国的大学，包括在 RIT 上学，所以我们觉得你们的孩子的准备还是蛮好。我们也是比较，也可以说我们是挺独立的，想让我们想选哪一些学校，特别是我们比较出色的项目，所以我们最受欢迎的那些项目是申请的学生比较多。但是我每一次还都觉得，特别是这些国际学生，包括中国的、越南的，新加坡的，都是我们比较喜欢让他们上我们的学校。So it, so yeah, we think there's a great preparation at YCIS and 𝐝𝐤𝐬𝐬𝐬 and in Chinese schools in general. 因为不光是耀中耀华，也是好多我觉得中国学生在美国的大学还是比较受欢迎的。
Thank you so much. We have some specific, questions here about majors. So, for example, we had certain families that talked about, for students that are interested in healthcare, or rehabilitation, or psychology. And I also know for music and performing arts, can you just share a little bit about how those students, of what maybe a little about your programs, but also how those students, their study experience will be like at your institutions? And then David, if I can go to you first, if that's okay.
Sure. Well, at RIT, we're a big school with a lot of different majors, about close to 100 undergrad majors, and they differ a lot. Like some of our majors are really popular, and so they have terrific applications. Other majors are a little less popular, maybe a little less developed. So when we're looking at the application, we're looking very specifically at what major the student is applying to. So when we see a student applying to game design, we want to see certain classes that they're doing well in. When we see a student who's applying to industrial design, we want to see different things, maybe a portfolio. Or we'll emphasize different classes even. So we want to, if a student's not doing too well in math, but they're applying to a fine arts program or even a history program, that's not as big a problem. If they're applying to computer science, but they're not doing well in math, they're not going to get in. So we look very specifically at the majors, and our goal is to make sure that the student can be successful and graduate, not just get in, but that they'll be successful and graduate from the school. 所以我们每次看申请单的话，我们是比较看上他们想申请哪一个专业然后我们是从这个专业想他们的申请表，他们必须要适合他们的专业，而且能成功在他们所说的在他们选到的这个专业而且因为我刚才说的，有的专业是要求比较高或者学生申请的比较多，有的专业在我们的学校，在每一个学校他们都有他们的拿手菜都有他们比较流行的专业，也有他们不太流行的专业，所以we really look at it from that standpoint. We want to find a student that's well suited to the major so that they can be successful in it.
Jing, how about Michigan State?
Sure. So I think most of the point David just mentioned were kind of the same or very similar MSU. So I will add something new. 像说，比如说医药专业啊，这个是在每次大学展上都会有些学生家长问，到底美国收不收外国的留学生申请医药专业呢？其实没有大家想的那么难，并不是说中国学生就不能够升医药专业的，或者是成为不了这个拿到医师证的医生，只是说这个路非常的长在走这个住院医师的这个路上要很多的门槛。那能不能够走到最后的毕业，这个取决于个人，但是从申请的角度来说是可以的。那从毕业的角度来说，这条路会比其他的专业要难非常的多。那另外一个的话，音乐专业的话，它也是比较独特的， 音乐专业的话呢，除了要通过平常的这个常规的审核，就是我们所说的你的文书啊、你的英语啊、你的各科的成绩等等这些之外呢，你还有音乐的特长，不管说是你的 vocal 声乐，还是你会一样乐器，或者你是作曲，或者你做电子乐等等，你一定是要上交一个作品集，或者你是要来面试的。这个的话，全部都是由音乐学院的教授来做评判的。每年都会出现一些情况，学生可能文化课过了，就是 admission 这边过了，觉得学生可以，那音乐那边可能卡住了，或者是音乐学院的教授说这个学生很棒，很有音乐天赋，我们想收，但是 admission 这边没有过，可能英语不够，可能文化课的成绩不够等等。所以音乐学院的学生的话，他可能会更需要去平衡一下你平常的 workload， 你的这个课业，要保证你的文化课是在一个比较好的基础上，同时去精进你音乐方面的一些特长，这样的话，从你的申请的角度来说，会帮助到你走得更远。
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah,
And I just had a follow-up question from the audience. What if the possibility of double majoring in music and something else? Is that a possibility within your schools? And Jing, if I can go to you first about that question.
Yes. Double major, even triple major is possible. Just depends on if students can take it, because the burden, the working load will be very, very high, especially if your students want to graduate within 4 years. They need to have a very, very great time management skills, knows how to balance their time, and knows how to do the things in a healthy way. So we usually suggest students talk with their academic advisor to see how to map out the entire study schedule to fit the students' needs. But in theory, yes, if you want to change a major, add a minor, whenever, yeah, it's possible. Very, very flexible in the United States.
David, for priority?
Yeah, I would say generally the same. We are very flexible, especially about changing majors, things like that. But some majors are harder than others to do a double major with. And some majors are more sequential. And so, for example, I always, it's a big commitment if a student's going to do a double major. And it can, as Jing Luo said, it can take more time. A lot of our students already take 5 years to graduate, because we have a program called co-op, 带薪实习, that's built into the program of many of our majors, not all of our majors. And those programs, they already have time built in for work, where they're doing internships. 带薪实习，他们可以挣钱，而且不花学费. But it does take time, right? So those are harder to do a double major with. So engineering, computing, science courses, math courses, a lot of those courses require co-op. So you're already trying to prepare for the co-op so that you can be impressive to the worker, to the company. And if you're also trying to get a whole nother major in business or art or physics, it adds more burden to the student. So it really depends on the student. We do have students who do double majors, even with engineering and business or something like that. But you want to think about it carefully. Don't just try to tick off a box to say, oh, I'm going to be double major, because it is a lot of work. And you're not doing twice as much work, but you're doing a lot more work. And it also, there are a lot of requirements that you have to do at certain times, which can sometimes 有时候有冲突. So it's a big thing to think about, and find majors that work well together. Yeah.
Thank you both. I'm just going to move to questions now about a little bit more towards about how parents are feeling about some of what they may be feeling from the US. So we have a question here where it says, for international students who are applying to your schools, is there a quota? And then also, because of what the current situation is, will especially in the perspective of Chinese students, will it be more difficult for Chinese students to be applying to your institutions because of what's happening? And David, if I can ask you to go first, if that's okay.
Sure. Well, those are kind of two different questions, but similar. Most schools in America, I would say, do not have quotas for international students. We want more international students. Like our school wants more. If I could have 2 times or 3 times the number of Chinese students at our school than we have right now, I would be so happy. It's really only those top elite schools in the US that do try to manage exactly what numbers of students they have from each place, because they can choose. They can choose exactly who they want from the whole world. So they want to create a blend of students that represents the world. Most schools in the US do not have that ability. So we want more international students. A school like RIT, we wish we had a bigger population of international students. We're not as well known. We're a great school. Some of our programs maybe are better than Harvard's game design program or industrial design, but we're not as well known as they are. So all the international families apply to 10, 20, 30 schools in the US, and then they don't always come to the other schools. So no, most schools in the US want more international students. They don't limit the number of students. 他们没有什么限制。我们是希望更多国际学生，特别是本科。所以像我们这个，我们是前100，在美国也不赖。但是也不是前30、前20、前50的。So yeah, we want more. There's no quota. We want more. We would take more students we have students from 103 countries at RIT, but for some of those countries, we only have 1 student or 2 students. And from China, we only have, maybe 100 students these days after COVID. So we would love to have 200, 300, 400 would be great. We love what international students bring to our campus, and especially a campus that's not in a big city. And that goes for China too. We would love more students from China. I go to China to recruit. We have China-based representatives, and that's because we want to invest in bringing more students from China. And speaking of China-based representatives, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
Jing, how about yourself? Yes.
Yeah, so honestly, we don't have quota as well. If I don't remember wrong, we are not allowed to have quota because it's kind of illegal in terms of higher education law in the United States, in terms of the equity, equality, and the transparency. We have a goal we need to reach each year. It's more like a percentage range, but it's not specific quota or number. We don't put students into specific baskets when we read applications. Even we have cross-check second readers or third readers for each applicant. We don't check box for certain nationalities or where you are from. So absolutely not in terms of this process. But I also understand why students or parents think we have this process because you have got many exposure news from the social media, which says that we have this quota saying checkbox when we read applications, but actually the process doesn't look as what you imagined or expected. Yeah.
I did work at one school that did have quotas, not for Chinese students, and this was 30 years ago. Our school was very popular with South Korean students, and we were a small school. It was a boarding school, boarding high school, 寄宿中学, and we were very popular in South Korea, and South Korea had a lot of money at that time, and they all wanted to apply to our school, and we loved them. There were so many great students, great applications, but we were a small school. There were only 1,200 students. We couldn't all be Korean students, so we made a decision to limit the number of students that we had from any one country. We didn't want it to be more than, I forget, maybe 20% of the international student population or something like that. But it was an effort by the school to make sure that we didn't want students from Korea to come to our school and only have classmates from Korea, only have so those elite schools are dealing with those kinds of limitations where they don't want one group to be too much. But the rest of the schools in the U.S., the other 4,400 schools in the U.S. are not in that situation. It's really just the top 30, maybe top 50 that try to limit those numbers, I think.
Thank you so much. And I just want to now turn to the new Trump policy that has, or the policy that the U.S. has put out for visa requirements for students. So may I just hear from your schools, institutions, and your policies, like how are your institutions dealing with this current situation and, trying to support international students? And Jing, if I can ask you to respond to that question first.
Yeah, ever since this news, our Office of Admissions and Office of International Student Scholar Services have keep watching for this news and how this news will evolve into the next level. Right now, only one enrolled students who got a student visa appointment then got news that the appointment was paused because of the news, what happened. But all other students seems fine. Either they have got a visa or they haven't started scheduled visa appointments yet. So, and also we contacted the Education USA, their headquarters and their based office here. And we are told that they are in the process of collecting information and keep watching. And also they think that this pause is temporary. So once the temporary actions is gone, it should resume. The older visa appointments schedule should be resumed. So they asked us to wait for the next maybe 1 week or 2 weeks or so. So things should getting better in the next weeks or so.
And how about RIT, David?
Yeah, well, 这是个过程中哈，we're it's a developing situation， 而且我们得看看这个情况是怎么样发展。I think we've been trying to deal with the situation from a few months ago, sorry, it's my morning wake up alarm. This is when I normally wake up. So starting a few months ago, when Trump and his administration announced their first travel ban on certain countries like Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, we started to take this very seriously, and we started emailing all of our students and saying that were admitted and saying, hey, let's do your I-20 as quickly as we can. Let's get this information together. We didn't even wait for in past years, we would wait for students to enroll and pay their deposit, their enrollment deposit before we sent out their I-20 form so that they could apply for a visa. But this year, right away, we started saying, hey, send us your passport, send us your financial documents, and we'll send you the I-20. You can decide, you can enroll a little bit later. We want to get these I-20s in your hands. We want you to reserve those applications while there's still time, because we saw that there was going to be difficulties, especially with certain countries, but we sent that message to everyone. We do think this current visa pause on immigrations will be temporary. There was a press conference on Friday at the State Department where they indicated that it will be a short-term pause. So we do think that they'll reopen the visa appointments, hopefully in the next week or two. We don't know exactly when. but keep watching that space. There is, I should put it in there. I'll put it in the chat. There is a page where you can watch what the expected visa interview time is for different embassies around the world. So you could see Beijing and Shanghai and different consulates. The other issue, I mean, so there's the visa pause we think is temporary. The more long-term issue that we're dealing with is this, there are attempts by the administration to kind of poke at students who already have their visa, and for different reasons. Maybe the student had a drunk driving offense, or maybe they had a speeding ticket or something, and it's not really related to them being a student, but clearly we're trying to tell all of our students, our current students, to be, law abiding and make sure that they don't have any issues with illegal things or drugs or things like that, because it could be used as a way to cause trouble with their visa. But we basically, in our incoming students, we basically also have a couple different options. Our school is lucky. We have a global campus, or actually we have 4 global campuses. We have a big global campus in Dubai. So if if students have problems with their US visa at the last minute, our first answer is, how about you maybe think about Dubai? So if a school has a partnership, we saw this during COVID as well. Some schools had partner schools in China or partner schools in other places, and students could study there instead if they had trouble getting a visa. And that's our first offer, is if one of our students has a problem with their visa, we can easily send them to our Dubai campus or one of our campuses in Eastern Europe. The other thing, of course, is students can defer. If they do have problems with their visa, then we can wait, and maybe they can, if they need a little more time, they could come in the spring, or they could come the following year. So, we're trying to work with students. We're hopeful that everyone will get their visas in the end. This is an important industry for the United States. A lot of things that Trump and his administration have tried to put in place have not been very well planned. So a lot of times, we saw this in the first administration, and we're seeing it now. A lot of his things, he's attacking Harvard, and then the legal system says, no, you can't do that. That's not legal. Or maybe you can't take this money away. Congress gave that money to them, not the president. So these are very scary times, because there's a lot of things coming very quickly from the Trump administration, but we're hopeful that things will settle down and maybe not be as serious as they look right now.
Thank you all for that. And that kind of actually maybe would love to hear from you, from many of our current, graduates right now who are kind of waiting for their university, or maybe didn't get their visa appointments or going through difficulty. What advice would you give them and their parents on what next steps they should do, so that they can feel a little bit more calm or prepared? Well, yeah, what advice would you give to those students or families who maybe is stuck in a tough situation right now? Jing, may I go to you first?
Sure. I think the most vital thing is keeping connected with your university you are planning to enroll. So be sure that let your maybe OIS's advisor or admission officer know that you have this difficulty. Can they provide any supplemental support, or do they have any advice? So every international student office in each university, they are the expert on this. They have their specialty. They are trained to advise students how to do it, what to do it. I have known some cases which may not be suggested, but just to give out some examples and to assure that this can be resolved. Some students go to a third country to apply for a visa. Yeah. Which may be a solution, but not the best one. But it can be. So my advice is that you keep communicating with your school which you are planning to enroll. Let them know and listen to their advice. And what are the next steps? I'm very sure that once they get news, they will notify you and give you the next steps for the instructions.
Thank you so much, Jing. David, how about yourself?
Yeah, well, so again, we want to get the visa interviews going again. My understanding is students who already have a visa interview scheduled can still go to their scheduled interviews. The problem right now is new visa interviews and getting those scheduled. Once those open up again, well, before they open up, I think we just have to try and stay calm, know that this is, as much as we are told, this is a temporary pause. The excuse that's being used to have this pause is because a few years ago, it's not new. A few years ago, they decided that they needed to check students' social media in order to do a background check to see if they were anti-America or I don't really know how they're going to do those checks. And I think they didn't really know a few years ago how they were going to do those checks. So they never really implemented that. That's what's being used right now as an excuse to pause the visas. But presumably they will put some kind of process in place for that. So we do think it's temporary. The other thing, I was just listening to a panel of international students. We had a webinar a couple weeks ago, and they were telling me about their visa interview experiences and to just try to stay calm. The students said, well, maybe they were in line at the embassy or at the consulate, and they're very nervous, but most of them had not every visa officer is nice or friendly, but most of them were. Some of the students saw students who did not get their visa, but they just tried to stay calm and positive and answer the questions quickly and directly. It's also good to keep in mind that you can try more than once. That's not a great thing, but sometimes if you meet a person who's not so nice that morning, or maybe they had a bad breakfast and they're not happy, you can go again. You can go up to 3 times. So it's still possible, and schools will wait, especially this year. If there are visa problems, the schools will try to work with students to make sure that everything we can do from our side, we will do. We know that it's going to be a difficult year. Be in touch with us. Sometimes I'll send a letter for a family or a student to say that, I don't know how much it really helps. Probably doesn't really change the mind of the admission officer very much, but sometimes it makes the student feel a little more confident. So I'm happy to do that. Many offices are happy to do that if possible.
Thank you so much. I just want to kind of, as we were sharing before, students stay calm. Be prepared for when you go to your visa interviews. Ask if they ask you a question that you're not clear about. You can ask, like, is this what you're asking me? It's okay to ask them a question of, this is what you're asking me. Just be clear. And just to remember, you prepared your whole way, you're ready to go. So just trust in your abilities. I would say the other point, as we were shared before, students, I know probably at all of our schools, we talk about the importance of social media and what is your social media presence. Please think about what you post online, even if it's not, related to the US, but show kindness and wisdom and how you present yourself online. Another follow-up question actually from the audience is, David and Jing, you talked a little bit about contingencies. So may I ask, let's say worst case scenario, if students, let's say doesn't get the visa, does your institution, will you defer which means you'll, defer the enrollment, which allow the students come in next year? Or has your institutions talked about maybe having some online classes possibly for some students that may, not be able to come onto campus and have to do that remotely? Just wondering, has it been part of your considerations or, that any of those plans? And David, if I can ask you to share first, if you're okay.
Sure. Yeah. Like I said, the way I'm thinking of it is, if there's a problem, hopefully, our big hope is, number one, that this will go away and there won't be a problem, but planning for it is important. And so at RIT anyway, because we have our global campuses, our first option is is refer. So I like to say refer, defer, and then the last one is refund. So if a student has visa trouble, we can easily refer them to one of our global campuses. We can defer them to a later semester or a later term. If a student gets denied for a visa, we're always willing to refund their enrollment deposit, things like that. We want to be as helpful as possible. We hope it doesn't come to that. We don't currently have any. That's a good question about online. I think we'll have to see how large this problem becomes, if it becomes a bigger problem. Certainly during COVID, we had to change our policies. We also referred students to our global campuses. We had 22 students who went to our campus in China that year, who had planned to come to Rochester, but went to our campus in China. So they didn't need visas at all. But we don't have plans for online as of this point, because our undergraduate programs, really very few of them are set up for online. So it would have to be, and at our school, international students are a small percentage of our undergraduate students, maybe 4%, so 5% if we're lucky. So I don't think they would be able to change the whole curriculum to go online, but I'm sure they would be able to provide some options along those lines, but that would be a more dramatic step for us. I'm not sure. Michigan State might have some existing online options.
Yeah.
We did have online options during COVID. There was very, very extensive one for basically all students, including domestic students. But there was a very special case. And honestly, when we evaluated online courses, it was not as effective as we expected, especially for international students, because of the time difference and also because that it is lacking in-person interactions. So we don't have the online options anymore, but we do have defer options. All the students can request to defer to next spring or next fall. So I'm very sure that other universities will come up with other ideas to accommodate your need in this special case.
And can I just ask, let's say students did have scholarships, would those also be deferred to the following years as well? It looks like yes.
In many cases, yes, but it's not guaranteed because it's also because of the university funding. But we will try best to keep it maybe like a paramount to the scholarship.
That the same for RIT? Yeah.
At RIT, if a student's officially deferred, then their scholarship follows them as well. So, we've had students who deferred even for more than 1 year and their scholarship is still there. But there is a process. It's if a student, especially for deferral, it does have to be approved. Normally, it has to be approved. Of course, if there's a visa issue, this year is special. So I think any international student is going to get priority for a deferral. And then once it's approved, yes, their scholarship goes with them and their spot. That's what holds their spot with them.
Great. Thank you. We also have some questions from families that talked about now thinking beyond the universities with employment. So would you be able to speak to, from your vantage point from the university, what are the career possibilities, especially Chinese international students working within the United States at the moment within the current situation? And David, if I can ask you to speak about that first.
Yeah, well, RIT is a very work and industry focused university. We like I said, we have the co-op program. So our students start working even before they graduate. And usually our international students will have worked for 4 or 6 months before they graduate, at some point, maybe in their 3rd year. So we're very interested and also nervous. One of the biggest benefits of coming to study in the United States in university is this opportunity to work after you graduate. I think Jing Luo mentioned earlier, OPT, optional practical training, is a wonderful thing that students can do at all schools in the US. If you graduate from a school in the US, you can work on your student visa for at least 1 year. And if it's a STEM program, currently you can work for a total of 3 years. So for many of our students, that's a way to get work experience and also make some good money after they graduate to help pay for their studies. So that's a big part of the investment. And it's something that US industry needs. Even people like Elon Musk, Trump's sometimes friend, on again, off again friend, they know that those industries rely on highly skilled technology workers. That's why we have 3 years for STEM programs. So we are hopeful that this will continue without changes because the industry needs it. Now, we do find that a lot of small companies in the US are reluctant to hire international students, not just Chinese, but international in general, because they have to pay more money, they have to hire lawyers. It's more difficult. 我在中国工作的时候，我也是必须拿一个工作签证，然后我的公司当时也是要花好多钱，也找律师所以是比较麻烦一点So 能躲开就躲开，能找本地的就找本地的。But the bigger companies in the US there's not enough US graduates who are qualified in these STEM programs, in particular in computing and engineering and even the highly technical animation and game design, things like that. They're not enough to meet the demand. So these companies, the big companies, need a lot of these students. And so there's still job opportunities when we have these big career fairs. 我们学校每一个学期我们都有大型的招聘展。Maybe we have 200 companies there, and maybe 120 of them don't really want to hire international students. So international students will go to the table and say, "Oh, hi, I'd like to give my resume." They're like, "Oh, are you a US citizen?" So it doesn't feel good for the international students sometimes, but there are 80 companies there that are big companies that are hiring a lot of international students, and that's where it kind of balances out. Oh no, I think we've lost Jing Luo.
I think Jing might have been dropped by accident. No worries at all. As we're waiting for Jing to come back, I just wanted to maybe share a little bit for especially our YCIS and YWIES students. If you have any questions, students and parents, if you have any questions, feel free, please, to reach out to your career and university guidance counselor, your CUGO, because we're here to support you through any of this. And that being said, actually, this does come to the end of the webinar this evening. We just want to thank everybody for joining. Thank you for all of your questions. Thank you, David, so much, who's woke up this morning at 5:30 a.m. to get ready. And then Jing, who actually she's on vacation right now. She took off her vacation time to join us. And so we just are so thankful for the both of you for giving up your personal time to really bring calm and knowledge and expertise and information to our families. And as David, as you were sharing before, we're all waiting for this to pass, and then for wiser and kinder minds to join. Oh, here Jing is joining us. Here we go. Okay. Hi, Jing. Welcome back.
Sorry, my internet.
No worries. Well, actually, we were just wrapping up, and I was just sharing to our audience that we're so thankful because you're joining us from vacation to bring us, to get, again, to bring us knowledge and calm. And before I go, I want to just leave the last maybe words to our two speakers. Any parting words that you wanted to share with our students, our families, before we go? And David, I'll to you first, and then Jing, I'll give you the final word.
Yes. Well, this is an interesting time. And the US is a big country with a lot of different ideas going on all the time. And right now, I think that the US, especially is struggling with a lot of differences in different parts of the US for different reasons. And so there's this political conflict and back and forth. International is just a very small part of that. International students are an even smaller part of that. A lot of it's about Democrat versus Republican, 𝐝𝐤𝐬𝐬𝐜𝐫, and so all these kinds of things are impacting what we do. But I think when you walk onto our campuses, especially here in Michigan or in New York State, or things haven't really changed. The general atmosphere has not really changed. Maybe it has in other parts of the country. I don't know. I'm going to Florida next week. Maybe I'll find out. But where we are, things have not really changed in terms of how people act or react or treat international students. So I think that, from my perspective, it's strange to be talking about all these things where our campus still feels like we're welcoming and trying so hard to bring new international students to our campus, and our teachers want you, and the fellow classmates want you here as well. So yeah, it's an interesting time to be in the US, but we'll see how it develops, and we do hope, as John said, that kinder hearts prevail. And I think the true welcoming nature of US people in the US will start to push back against these political issues. I don't know.
Thank you, Jing. How about yourself?
Yeah, I think during this tough and anxious time, actually, it helped me reflect a lot, and it reminded me why I'm in this field, and who are the people who have supported me along the way. I went to United States about 15 years ago as an international student. Then I worked there for about 5 years. Then I even came back to China to be based in China. I'm still working in a US institution. So I've been with US institution in this field over 15 years. And I have felt that I've gained lots of support. And of course, there was ups and downs, lots of difficulties and challenges throughout the way. But the people who surrounded me never give up. Whenever I needed, they give our hand. So I'm really sure that if you come to United States, choose a US institution you want to enroll, you will have that kind of support system, and you will be one of the international students that contributes to the diversity, to the whole institutional life. And people appreciate international students and what international students bring to the campus, to the community, and to the entire nation. So I fully believe that this pause was temporary, and nowadays the tough time maybe is the best time for us to bring together the wisdom, the strength, so we can move forward with better hopes and higher abilities. So let's keep calm a little bit right now and see what will happen in the next few weeks. And when things get better, I think we will be whole relieved. One of my friends told me that this cannot be getting worse. This is the worst, and now it's kind of the deepest water. And what you can do is go up. So things should getting better.
I'll
Yes, go ahead.
I'll just add one quick thing that came to me while we were talking, and it's that, people to people is what education does. And education brings people together and brings them together on an equal level. The first time I went to China was in 1980. And at that time, the governments of China, the politics were, between the China and the US were not good. And people said, oh, you're going to China, communist China. Oh, it's, all these things. But the people that I met in China were wonderful. So I think, when it gets to people, that's where education gets really important, so that we can see each other as people instead of just the two governments having their argument or trade wars or the other aspects. And the media too. There's a lot out there that's happening that's not really about the people that you'll meet if you're here as a student.
Absolutely. And thank you both for taking the time again to share that your thoughts. And I agree, our students are the first and most important bridge to continue to bring dialogue and understanding. And it's about, at the end of the day, who you know personally. And education is not, of course, it's about the degree and the jobs that we get, but it's also about what we learn about ourselves and what we learn about our neighbors and the kindness of our neighbors to help us to our next steps. And I'm sure just like you, Jing, I immigrated to the U.S. in the 1980s, and and now I'm back here to continue to build that bridge for international education. And I'm just very thankful for the opportunity we've all been given. And I just want to also thank our students and our parents for being part of our schools and believing in internationalism and globalism and the idea of building bridges and connections, and I really want to motivate our students that although this is a difficult time, what you're doing and the efforts you're sowing into just going to another country and learning and building yourself up, you are the hope for the future. And we, as adults, we're thankful to be part of that journey. So on that last note, thank you, all of our families, all of us who joined us tonight. Thank you so much, David. Thank you so much, Jing, for your time. And looking forward to seeing you all soon. And then looking forward to the next webinar. We'll invite you, and hopefully we'll have a different topic, maybe something about STEM and music and all the other great things and co-ops that your amazing institutions are known for. So thank you so much, everybody, and have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Have
everyone.
a good day.
Have a great day.
谢谢大家。